you, Mr. Rove. It's really wonderful to talk about Ronald Reagan and George Bush. Before we leave tonight, I do have a special gift for our guest speakers. But before we give the gift out to the guest speakers, we need to announce the winners of the silent auction.
Those are being accumulated right now, so you might go ahead.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go on. So in order to give our gifts to the guest speakers, we're going to have our two candidates for Attorney General come forward. Rob Bell and Mark Obenshain.
Mr. Burnley, Secretary, if you'll come up, please. While he's coming up, he mentioned the family members here. He didn't actually say that he's had family members here for many, many generations. And in fact, Burnley Station Road, he believes, was a member of the Burnley family. And he says his only disappointment was he doesn't think he's related to the Burnley winery people. So, Mr. Secretary, we were honored to hear your remarks about President Reagan. We have a flag that was hung over the Virginia Capitol specifically in your honor, and I'd like to present it tonight. Thank you very much.
Carl, if you would come up. You know, I just saw that fancy package that the House of Delegates has for flags flown over the Capitol, and I'm embarrassed to say that the State Senate has a nice little manila folder, a flag that's neatly folded. Unlike the House of Delegates, I don't get to say this very often, but we're much more conservative. So for that, I'm sorry, but it's a great pleasure to have an opportunity to stand on stage to listen to you. And, you know, with the college Republicans here, college Republicans, why don't you stand up, guys? Stand up. Rock stars. That's where I got my start in politics. And that's where Karl Rove got his start in politics, next to a guy named Lee Atwater, if I recall accurately, as chairman of the, or I guess executive director, and then chairman of the College Republican National Committee. He did, of course, come to Virginia, honed his political skills for use elsewhere. And it is great to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your words with us, and it's my pleasure to present you with this modest token of our appreciation. This flag flown over the Capitol in your honor.
No expensive plastic, House of Delegates cover. Thanks for your conservatism.
One surprise gift, though, that I've been waiting to give this out to. I'm going to have Rob Bell and Mark Obenshain come back up here. Rob Bell. I need Rob.
Probably set out the restroom.
Okay, well, while we're waiting on him, I want to give a little preparatory remarks here, and that is, I think we've heard about a lot of things nationally. I think it was Tip O'Neill that said all politics is ultimately local. And in 2005, the Supreme Court rendered one of the worst decisions in the history of the Supreme Court, called Kelo v. City of New London. Kelo has subsequently become code for the abuse of government power to take your private property. Okay. It obviously created a huge backlash in the country. Rob, come on up here. Rob and Mark, come on up here. I want you to be right here while you hear these. Created a huge backlash in the country, and of course Virginia reacted quite strongly, initially crafting new legislation to protect property rights in Virginia, and ultimately drafting up a constitutional amendment that made it onto the ballot this past November, and it passed resoundingly. Here in Charlottesville, I mentioned all politics being local. We didn't need Kelo to as a code word for the abuse of government power, because we got our own, and it's called Vinegar Hill. Everybody that's been around Charlottesville for any period of time understands what Vinegar Hill is. Vinegar Hill was a black neighborhood with black houses and black businesses that back in the 60s was raised in the name of urban development. This hotel profited from that decision. In fact, we are having our meeting here tonight on the very ground of the neighborhood that was formerly known as Senator Hill. City Council a couple of years ago actually issued a formal apology. The Daily Progress had an editorial in the paper that said it was an egregious mistake, revealed by history to be paternalistic, short-sighted, and unjust. Those are strong words. But thanks to Rob Bell in the House of Delegates and Mark Obenshain in the Senate, they helped spearhead the legislative and the constitutional amendments that finally made it to the ballot. We had to make sure that when this thing came to a vote of we the people, that the people understood what was at stake. And so we put some signs out at our precincts. I'm going to give each one of these members a sign as a token of our appreciation for their efforts. The signs are slightly used, but then again, that's the point of it all, isn't it?
That's great.
Thank you both for your efforts in getting that to we the people and we the people. And by the way, in a city, and just to give you an example, in a city where not a single Republican got more than 23% of the vote, the property rights amendment passed by 60%, right here in the city of Charlottesville. We talk to the people. We can do it. If we're optimistic, we can do it. People know what's at stake when the government abuses them. So, with that, we're going to close the ceremonies.